Calculating time differences, like date differences, is generally pretty straightforward. Usually it's just subtracting two different cells. But we also need to consider what happens if the information extends over multiple days. In the entries in columns A and B here, these are all within the same day. We want to know how much time has elapsed between the two entries. Equal the later entry minus the earlier entry. There it is. We'll copy this down the column. And we see in each case what's going on here. In the last example down here, these are within the same day. Let's make a change here. Suppose this has to do with working time, and you want to tabulate how long someone is at the office on a given day. We'll change this entry here. I'm just going to type in here 8:10, enter. And this person is leaving the office, and I'm going to type this in as 5:27 space P. 9 hours and 17 minutes. Sometimes what we want to do, though, is we need to know how much working time was spent, and this person wasn't here for an hour for lunch. So what might we do to this? Subtract an hour. But if we subtract 1, the unit of measure here is a day. This is not going to give us the answer we want. In fact, we get no answer because it's an impossible answer. It's subtracting, in effect, 24 hours. What we really want to do here is to subtract 1/24. Now, that's a little bit cumbersome, but it works. And so the answer we now have is 8 hours and 17 minutes. But what if this person took 45 minutes for lunch? Now, you can start doing the math in your head a little bit and say, okay, that's 3/4 of 1/24. That's 3/96. That's 1/32. Okay, we could come up with that, 1/32. I think you know this is not the best way to do this, but it is accurate in this case. It's 8 hours and 32 minutes. Now, a better way to do this, but not nearly so obvious, is 0:45. We'll get the same answer we just got, but this is a much more coherent approach to coming up with an answer. Makes good sense here. You can also, as with dates, project into the future. Maybe for whatever these entries might be here, we need an ending time that's either so many hours or so many minutes later. What if, for example, it's 4 hours? Equal this plus what? Now, 4 is a nice round number, particularly when we think of it as a portion of a day. But once again, we don't want to put in 4 here. We want to put in 4/24 or possibly 1/6. And here, too, I think we'd agree that that's probably not the best way to do that. Others might see it and have not a clue what's going on here. So let's put in a formula here within double quotes, 4:00. Now we have a sensible answer, and it's well documented. Everybody would understand what that means. And if all these need to be 4 hours, we'll just copy them down the column. And you can imagine how you might use that with different time frames as well. What happens if we're trying to tabulate differences across multiple days? This system went down at 8:30 p.m. on November 17th. It was back in business at 2 p.m. on November 19th, a few days later. How much time has elapsed? Let's subtract the two. Equal a later time minus an earlier time. Well, we get an answer here, but can we be sure? Is that 1.7 days? And don't we really want to see this in terms of hours? What can we do here? Let's just do a right click here and jump into Format Cells and display it as a time. How about 13:30? We don't want to see AM, PM in here. We want to see an actual hours. So that sounds like a good choice. Click OK. But we know that isn't the correct answer. It extends across 2 days. Maybe it's not 48, but it's certainly above 24. So this is not a good answer. If you have worked with times and have encountered situations where results go above 24, you may well know that we need a special format here for these kinds of entries. And under Format Cells, the time category, choose the one that has the 37 in it. And we probably really don't want to see seconds as we see here, so let's immediately jump over to Custom and strip off that last part of the entry there. And then this will be a sensible answer. It's 41 hours and 30 minutes. So you certainly can calculate time differences across different days, as well as the simpler calculations that we saw earlier. Great capability for tabulating the differences between times, even across multiple days.